almost like having something at my house. It's on my welcome to Stitch Men Emerge, fiber art that heals the spirit. I was lucky enough to get a CR4 grant, Artist Corps grant. That was actually a lottery system. You just had to apply and be able to show that you were an artist, a working artist. And then they would put you in a hat, and there were 3 cycles. I didn't apply to the 2nd cycle. I got it for the 3rd cycle. But I knew from in the beginning that it was a lottery. So that's how we get the chance to be here. Shimoda, you got any opening?
Thank you so much for coming. So many places I haven't seen in so long. Living this scenery. I'm just so thrilled, and I'm thankful that Laura's having me do the show with her, sharing her grant.
Yeah. It's actually so much easier for me because I only have to be responsible for this.
It is great that I live a couple.
That's right. Yeah.
Just real my stuff here. So wonderful.
So just to give you some background. Just to give you some background on what I originally planned to do. There's a series of work I wanted to do around when I was actually Michelle Bishop from Harlem Needle Arts. I was actually an artist on a project for MoFab, which is Museum of Food and Drink, where we did this huge series of quilts that kind of illustrated 400 years, from 1619 to 2019, of the African presence in what we eat. Can't remember something about our table. African/American.
Making the nation's table.
Making the nation's table. So in doing that, the blocks that I came across something that was about watermelons, and then how watermelon should have kind of, from my idea of it, should have been a badge of honor, because it was one of the first things that Africans coming off of the plantation were able to do roadsides and become instant entrepreneurs, was the watermelon. And the story goes that someone saw that and they felt very bad that how dare these people who used to have to do this for free for us come in now, they can come and sell this on them. And now that's how you get the whole spoof of the extra spoof of the lazy and the minstrelsy and the watermelon. And you kind of, you know, if you're growing up like I did, you kind of didn't want to get caught in certain areas eating and enjoying watermelon and fried chicken because you felt a certain kind of way. Whether or not you were taught it, you felt a certain kind of way. And then to find out there was this thing, it should be a badge of honor, everybody should wear a little watermelon when they look out. I was going to do a series of work. The way the grants were going out, I decided midstream to do something that was more along this time of how Shimoda and I have been dealing with, you know, again, the pandemic, the fact that we were both caregivers during last year, and ironically enough, we were both released the immediacy of hands-on caregiving in this year at almost the same time. Wow. So it was a lot of things for us that are in sync. And the project that I wanted to do would have been I had to leave what I was doing. And I've been doing a lot of little needle art stuff. I've been looked into the rag rug because I got all this textile stuff left from my mom. It's not donatable, so you can't really use it. And I said, well, maybe I can braid it. And I started doing that. And subsequently, this artwork has come out of that. The first piece over there, Autumn Sun, has come out of that. And also this little thing called iCord. It's a little machine. You can buy one for $15 on up to about $50. And when I saw it, I just thought it was silly. I was like, why would anybody do this? Why would anybody want to do this? But then the idea of just cranking, and the thing comes out, and you can't be totally mindless of it, because you can kind of hear the clicks. You say, oh, that's not stitching correctly. That's going to be a slip stitch or something. So I became very into this I-cording, so I was able to move what I was going to present to these 2 pieces over here. And if you look, some of this has a lot of my I-cording. This has a few pieces of my I-cording in it. And that's just the nature of hand-done things of repetition, especially once you have even a minimal level of mastery. You can kind of go somewhat on autopilot and do it. You can actually let other things in your life drift away a little bit. So, and Shimoda's going to really get involved in how much you are kind of chilling the blue side of that.
So my work, squares, they are hand stitched, and they have the fabrics might have circles in them on stitching in a circle, and so they call sacred stitches circles of love. And I'm going to read why I did these. And they, on the back, they have the story on the back. So it's full circle. I'm an artist and a caregiver. I take care of my 96-year-old mom, actually 95, but she's 96, who's experiencing Alzheimer's. An artist in her early years, my mother expressed her creativity as a villain. While caring for her family, she created beautiful, one-of-a-kind, very stylish hats. Mom taught me by her example that keeping the fabric of our family together within a circle of love is sacred. Stitch by stitch, labor of love. Mom gave me life. She took care of me. She encouraged my creativity by instructing me in the ancient field and textile traditions of hand stitching, creating designs with needle and thread to make me walk the floor. Now I take care of Mom. I created a collection of textile art or stitches, sacred stitches, circles of love to honor her. This collection represents a lifelong interconnection between Mom and me. Art heals. I oftentimes encourage Mom's creativity as we select colorful fabric, buttons, and threads, and stitch Mom to walk together as she once taught me. I know my mom is reconnecting to her inner artist, stitch by stitch. We come full circle, Mom and I, as it was in the beginning. So that's what So I recently had to put my mother in her home.
Well, actually, it came about very organically. You know, Mom had a fall. Fall takes you to the hospital. In the hospital, she had surgery on her hip. It was difficult for Shimoda to think about it, but she had to go to the nursing home because it was either do nothing with that hip, but she'll have to stay still. And with somebody with dementia, that's just not possible. There's no way you could watch her enough to keep that from ever happening. Or let her have the surgery. And with the surgery, of course, comes the convalescence and things that have to happen in the nursing home. Just by, as Shimoda is able to now, Mom's in the nursing home, getting the care she has to have. She's able to do things with her husband. And, you know, you're seeing parts of life that you've not done. I remember when my mom passed, the second thing Raymond said to me, oh, we'll be able to go on vacation now. Because you're really not realizing what that other person is thinking about. And he had said it before you had time to pull it back. And, you know, but, you know, and I wasn't even offended. I was like, oh. But so now Shimoda's having to enjoy a little bit of life. And as she's wondering the possibilities of what would it be like to leave her, they call her and say to her, we happen to have a bed available for you to stay. And she had just put that on the altar to say, what should I do?
That morning, I said my prayers, and I said, okay, God, I know what I want, but really what is best for her, what is best for me. And I said, make it clear, because I want to know what you need. So and then that same day, I get a call. She was in rehab. So she was supposed to be there for a couple of months and then come home. Because I told rehab, she has to be able to walk. She has to be able to do 2 flights of stairs, or 2 flights of stairs. And so So then I get this call and they say, oh, by the way, we have a room. Have you ever thought about having her stay here? It's like, oh, man. Okay, God. I told the woman, I said, let me think about it. It's so interesting you're calling today, but give me a moment because I had to process this. And I guess I was taking too long to process because then she called another day. And it's like, okay, I got the message. So yes, and then when I went to go see her, because I couldn't see her because during the pandemic, I couldn't see her. So when I went to see her, the physical therapist came in and he says, oh, okay, so your mother, she's very strong. And I got her walking and she went up 3 flights of steps. So it's like, okay, thank you, but she's staying now. Yeah, but she's very, very strong. So yeah, so it's interesting because did you come on the mask before?
I think she went, I don't know if it was before she went into the hospital. It was, I know my mom was May 15th. That was after she had this whole thing going on, and full clean bill of health. Oh no, nothing but. And the following week, I knew things were not right, and I wasn't getting the assistance. So if I had any regrets of all the time that I spent with my mom, because caregiving like child rearing is never perfect. My mother used to tell me the story about, well, you might be a little crazy because you're the firstborn, and you hold the baby's head is here. She said in a time or two, I just jumped in the doorway. I was like, okay. All right, so that's why I was a little rattling going on there. But, so things would go wrong during that. So I said, I just regretted that I don't think she left here as peaceful, but my mother had so much more time than anyone would ever have given her. Unfortunately, in these days and times, people are making decisions about who can stay based on what they feel is a life well lived. I know I would have constant conversations with my mom, well, not too constant, but conversations about, well, are you trying to stay or are you trying to leave? My mother was real clear. For whatever the reasons were, with her diminished capabilities, she was trying to stay. And a couple of times I was getting very emotional during this year because my mom was in hospice twice. I had to be released to hospice because if you're not going in one direction, you got to come out of hospice. But they give you decent care. She's at home hospice. Not when she gets back to the doctoral program, the visiting doctoral program, which was a blessing for all these years, but had really just lost it during COVID and were no longer effective. My mother had a feeding tube. I'm buying her food on Amazon because they hadn't gotten things organized over. So my mom leaves in May 15th, and I have now. I was kind of, you go through the things you do when you're missing a parent, and then you go through things when you realize both your parents are not here. No matter how old you are, it's like, oh, I'm an orphan now. You're an old orphan. So I realized I had an identity crisis for me. Well, first I realized that I was lonely. I didn't know exactly what that was because I was never alone because my mother was always there, and I always talked. My mother could not talk to me. I always talked to her. And then I realized I don't have her to talk to. So once I realized that, I was able to deal with that very easily. Then it was.
How did you do it? Deal with it very easily.
I don't know. I think because in my mind, I was realistic with the way I was dealing with my mother the whole time. And I was able to do that because my mother was very much that way. She was not a huggy kissy. She was not, sometimes she could be downright mean. But I say that she couldn't talk because God knew that if she could talk, I could not take care of her. Anybody who is a mother or has a mother, knows what that is. So, but for some reason, I was able to once I understood what was going on, and that's the other thing that needle arts will do for you if you take the time to do them. Or anything that you take the time to do. Sometimes just assessing where you are. Because you always, you feel something and you want to blame it on outside forces a lot of times. What is going on, what's going on. And sometimes it's not so much what's going on, it's how you're digesting whatever's going on. And so, since I was kind of on that path of a little bit of self-reflection anyway, I said, oh, this is new because you don't have who you used to talk to all the time. You had always an audience, and my mother was also somewhat clear-minded enough that she always knew what I was talking about. I remember this one nurse came in and was talking about how she was, well, you need to prepare because she's in hospice, and she's doing this in front of my mother, and my mother was so heated, and so she couldn't talk, she couldn't even make any movements but listen, but she is rumbling and clearing her throat, and I'm holding her like, don't worry, Mom, just let her go. And then I had to, once she left, I said, she don't know us, she don't know you, she don't know me, that's not, no, don't worry about that. What do you want to do? Oh, you still trying to stay there? I said, no worries about what she said. She does this job all day, every day, places, she forgets that she's dealing with people and not just new patient number such and such. So, but I was able to do that, but I had the identity crisis of, because I've been my mother's caretaker for 14 years, 12 of them with the state that she was in from the stroke. So I was able to, my whole identity was around that. It was like the second thing, I do this and this is what I do. So what I do with my time in the daytime, my mom is here and I do this and this for my mom. So I no longer had that. And that was a little interesting on how you deal with that. Like, I can no longer say I can't go because I'm taking care of my mother. I can't do this because I'm taking care of my mother. Or, I would jump up from things for a minute, thinking, oh, I gotta go. No, you don't have to get upstairs. You don't have to run upstairs. You don't have to cut that short. You can go on vacation. And and then we realized we got all these dogs. No, can't go. Who's gonna take care of these 3 dogs and a cat? But I know I had parents that did holidays. Not so much my mother. My mother was the make it happen person. My father was the one who dreamed it, and my mother would kind of make it happen. So we did, and it was very interesting. I have to credit my parents because neither one of them had stellar childhoods. And even though, I have siblings that, can talk the negativity that they thought of our childhood, I just saw how they were able not to pass down the negativity that they, or all of it. So holidays we did. Both of them lost their moms early. My father, because she just didn't raise him. She gave him to the father's side to raise him because it was a color issue. She was Creole, and they said the child would be too dark, and so her side of the family did not want him, and so the father's side of the family they were not married. So that was very interesting. I didn't find that out until a couple of years ago, but that was the story of the family because my father has a bunch of half siblings younger than him. That when he went away to the service, he went and looked them up and found them and has stayed close to them. So I stay close to them as well now. So I know that's something my dad would appreciate. My mom, she had no love for people. She was done with them. She was done with them at an early age. But we're at the time where we learned how to do these craft things, the idea of making things from our moms. That was going out of style, I know. When my mom was one of the few moms that still sewed, and sewed our clothes for a good amount of time, and also did the crochet, the knitting. And she said she got it, she did it because it was something she needed to break, taking care of kids. She said specifically it kept her sane while raising children. So, it's nice that there's a resurgence back, and I think some younger folks are taking it up now in an idea of this era of self-care, or different things. And it's not just specific to needle arts. It's a way of doing something that's totally different maybe from anything else that you do, or something within the art. I was able to then say, now I'm going to take what I was doing, just cranking these things out. And again, I saw this machine on YouTube and said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I said, but I'm going to try one anyway. So now I have 3. I had to try to make sure this one was the better one. And then I got the Addy, because that's 6 needles, not 4. And you know, it's been a journey. I know Shimoda, you know, has on Instagram, but she was doing projects with her mom. And your mom was doing some needle stuff at one point. She was doing buttons and stuff?
Yeah. So Dinga, we had a class for seniors, and at the not Riverside Church, but that other building. Interfaith. Right. So I brought my mother there, and I said, okay, so let's take this class, and Dinga was showing us how to do things, and then we came home, and then I would, you know, give her some things, and we would do some sewing, and I had lots of buttons, and so I started. That's when I found out she really likes buttons, because she was just sewing buttons on everything. So that's like really like how it started, and I kept her busy, which was great. And at that time, she was still living in Queens with my sister, and my sister was taking care of her. And so I would give her a project, have her take it home, and then when she came back, she found other things that she put on. And she had this old pin, I remember her wearing, this brooch. Growing up, and she had that on the piece, and it was like, okay, this is cool. So I kept her busy that way. What else? And then so Dinga had all of us in the class made these art pieces, and we had an exhibition at the Interfaith Center. And so it's behind glass and everything, and it was amazing because my mother, as a mom, you know, the work is going to be, you know, in this show. So we get to the show, the work is behind glass, and she just blossomed into this art. She just it's where it's supposed to be. And she was standing there, there was, you know, people at the reception, and she would take a person and just bring her over. And she, sometimes she made clear sentences, but a lot of times she didn't. And so she came over and she just be talking whatever she's talking. And at one point I was going to say, okay, she's the, and
yes, I am.
Let her do this. And then I went off and did my thing. So she was
Take your time.
So that was awesome.
I remember we were going hopping to art shows in the neighborhood, and Miss Isola was really able to hang with us, and she liked a little taste of wine, and she liked the music, and it was some with dancing going on. And it was at one point we had realized we got this lady out in the street all kinds of hours. Because she was hanging with us so well at one point.
And she was walking.
And she was walking, right?
We would walk all over the place. So yeah, we had a great time. And I will always get her out. I would always get her out. We would go to 125th Street, and I'd come home, and my husband would be like, okay, you just walked around the world. Like, she is like 90-something years old. But we had a great time. And at one point, you know, she was getting slower, and Laura here told me about the wheelchair. She said, maybe you need
a travel wheelchair.
Yes,
they're very lightweight, you know.
Yeah, and it was perfect because then I put in a wheelchair. We go places, go plays, go yeah. So like, you know, I like getting out. I know she likes getting out, and she loves music. She loves like doing things. So like it was perfect. It was perfect. So that's why it was hard, you know, to have to go to the nursing home. And then another point is that my sister was losing her memory, and then she had gotten breast cancer. So that meant I had to take her. So that's when Mom started living with me. And then so I'm juggling Mom, and I'm juggling my sister, because now I have to take my sister to chemo appointments and all this stuff. So it's, you know, I was doing it, but it was, you know,
and it's still, and Shimoda is still doing it because she still goes to visit her mom, brings her a healthy shake that she's made. So anybody have any questions? And they can be on caregiving, a loss of a loved one, how to make something. It's kind of open because we were really happy. I was very happy that we were able to tune this to the life we're living right now.
And I want to say, Okay, so Laura taking care of her mom. I'm taking care of my mom. It was just amazing how we would go through the same thing at the same time. So my mother's having this type of challenge, and Laura said, "Yeah, my mother's having this challenge." It's like it's back and forth. It's like at the same time. And then when Laura's mother passed away, it's like I thought, like, did my mother pass away? But but my mother was strong, you know. So like I didn't see that, but I was just watching, like, okay, what's coming down the pipe, you know. And then soon after, is when my mother fell, and then she went to the nursing home. It was like, okay, this is it. But it's even though, like, okay, my mother's over there. Your mother's over there. And it's like, yeah, when I would just do things, because my husband was going out, he was
living his best life. Living his best life.
And everything like that. And I couldn't go. And so now it's like, I can go. You know, I can really
And
go
been
somewhere.
gone, and been gone.
And I had a cousin who lived in St. Croix, who was 100 years old when she passed away. And so my husband said, well, let's go to the funeral. It's like, I can go to St. Croix. Because first I was like, no, I can't go. It's like, oh, I can go. There's some time, because even though Mom was in nursing home, it's like, well, I gotta be here because I gotta go to the nursing home. I gotta make sure she's all right. And it's like, okay, calm down, calm down. So I still go through it, but.
Were you going to tell us what you do?
Okay, Sacred Stitches, the art of caregiving, caring for somebody. So
Birth during the pandemic.
exactly. Mom would always do funny things, and there is something that Mom did, and created this very colorful book. It has journal pages, and it's tips for the caregivers on keeping yourself sane. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you know, you might not be able to person that you love. And
Oxygen mask on
yes,
you.
yes, oxygen
Oxygen mask on the person
So this was a book. I have another book that's already from my dogs. That took like 10 years to do. And this was going to be in the same vein. It's going to take 20 years. So a friend of mine coached me into getting it done. And that's Nisha. I wanted to be here. And so I got it done. And I got it done during the time of COVID. When it first started. And my husband was away for a month visiting. So it was perfect because I didn't have to deal with caring for him. And so my bed, I had all this stuff on my bed to get the work done. All the papers and things, so I worked on it every day. And I got it done in like about a month or 2 months. Right, because sometimes people don't remember yet, or my mother always remembers me. So, and my sister, she remembers me. And when my mother when she went to the doctor years ago, the doctor said she has Alzheimer's. But I can't get those records now because I think that was when they computerized everything and had doctors long gone and everything like that. But this affects the memory, and they did have, she was taking this medicine, but the doctor said it's not, it's not doing anything for her, so, I get it. So I stopped having her take
And family.
Oh, yes. Okay. So my mother is the second youngest of 10 siblings, and she has been 6 girls. And so my mother's the last surviving of the 10 siblings. And her and the youngest one would take care of the older sisters because they had gotten the memory loss, the dementia. And so they went through it, so they always had to take care of them and get them into the nursing home. And that was my mother's fear of her getting it. And so yeah, it's happening. And now my sister, and I'm saying, I'm not getting it. I'm coming out in the new year with the second.
She's are doing the?
I am doing John Hopkins.
Yes.
So she has a program to deal with kids. So she's going to be ordering. She helped me edit the book. She's going to be ordering 200 copies. She has a conference that's on the 30th for caregivers, and so I'm on the panel.
Wonderful, congratulations.
That's on my website. So.
Can I ask a question, like, in terms of that? I've been caretaking for my grandmother and my mother in another state, so I sent her care packages. I understand the language, right? What recipes have you come up with as a result of having this caretaking? You see, your diet changes too when you are always on the caretaking work. So is there a recipe or something that you mastered now because you had to do this caretaking, whether it be for you or for your mom?
Okay, so Laura mentioned that I always visit my mother in shakes. So for years, I think my mother and I will be drinking the shake. Clean shake, it has a lot of vitamins, but the food, you're not getting a lot of vitamins. So it has, and it's full of iron, protein, just a lot of things. So it has chlorella, spirulina, beets, maca, plenty, and some mushrooms in powder form. This is a lot. And I said what I'm going to do is write it down and put it online because people always ask me. And I think that's why my mother is, strong. People say your mother's really strong. I think that's why, being 96, having a lot of energy, I think that's why she's strong. So that's good for her, and for me, I noticed is that it gives me energy, especially when I put those mushroom powders in there. I can have a lot of energy, and that, because sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? I'm thinking about this, and what am I doing with this? I know that I'm kind of deficient in maybe B complex, and that, and then put those mushrooms in it, and then I'm like, going. So, yeah. Well, I will be, just watch out, I will post it. And also,
The third edition.
And I've known you both for quite a long time and seen from the periphery and know little ins and outs and things like that because it's been an example to me and preparing me if I should, when I get that into that course maybe with my own mother. She's still on her own at 82 and very, she's like, and we've talked, I was like, you guys are going to live in New York because I'm not going down to Florida. So you can't scream, you're not having that conversation. But I just really want to acknowledge you guys because you went through that for such a long period of time. And then when things shifted, you were kind of almost beating up on yourself, but then the tip of loved one in your life to let you realize it's okay and it's not being selfish and it's not, you actually did what you were supposed to do and what God directed you to do and guided you. And so, and then and your parents are thanking you right now, and we're thanking you also because you're showing us what it means to be that way. Because it's not an easy road to go. There are a lot of people out there who have not done what you guys did. And at the same time, your art, because your art kept on coming through and coming out, even before COVID, and such, and it came out so immensely and intensely. So I hope that whatever it is that was there, it continues to drive your art, and you can also continue to let it come out in that. Because like you said, it was your therapy, it was your music, it was your whatever and such. And I saw you doing that chord thing, and I'm like, oh Lord, what is more?
No, it's not.
And so I just wanted to say and acknowledge you guys for that. And so I was also with that, and also if you can, because you talked about that piece with the sun piece, and that there seems to be something that came out of that was cathartic when your mom transitioned. So that was my question, and how did that come about?
But the piece?
Yeah.
It's because there are artists that are doing so many things, and I kind of know that I am a particular kind of creative person, and I enjoy being that kind of creative person. I like to learn, I like to put another layer to what I'm doing because I know how to do that, or I can go to YouTube and refresh my mind on it. I know when last year, I didn't do anything but be a fairy. Because, and my mother and I, we got some books on crystals. I would read to her about the crystals. I was hand knotting malas and doing stuff. Now, this has nothing to do with the art that I do. Because I let myself, during COVID, when mother was here, have this time, because I kept telling people who were a little bit more stressful. First of all, I'm very lucky. I have space. I have a yard. And we pull in that sidewalk, and we good inside, and so while everyone else, was worried about getting out, I was already kind of living a sedentary life and have all the nice hips and stuff to prove it. But, because I was doing so many things where I was staying closer to home where I was in that, and I was good. So people can't always relate their own, what it would be able to take care of their parent. Things worked out. I'm not married, I did not have children. So I was living my 20-year-old and 30-year-old and 40-year-old life. So by the time I had to take care of my mom, I was ready to do that. And then when it got to be even heavier work to do, I was like, okay, we'll work this out. So it really wasn't. My mother was one of the easiest things to do. Some of the stuff was she usually was not in any peril a lot of the time. She was just in this situation. And the conversation was always good because I was running the conversation.
And that's what always amazed me about Laura, because Laura had these grandiose conversations with her mother. And
She understood everything. And my mother, she didn't have movements of volition, but you stub your toe in that room, she would be laughing. But I started, like, every last Christmas after I started doing the crystals and the malas and this, because, during COVID, some people, were, and we're saying COVID proper, it's still COVID, but it's COVID proper. Certain people, like Michelle and I, was like, okay, what are we going to do now? What we got to get? Where we going to go? What? Got to burn this in the house? You got to take this down. There will be those kind of people. Okay, yeah, we know this is interesting, but we're not going gently into the night with this. We got accepting, and we're looking at folks on TV saying, I'm not sure why you're not making any real sense right now. It took them a minute to get to where they were making some kind of. I said, well, I ain't got time for you to tell me what to do. I'm gonna go. That's what Google is for. Go look up some stuff. Well, anyway, everybody for Christmas got hand-knotted pearl necklaces. I let my mother buy the pearls, and I hand-knotted them for all the young, women. Because, there's different things I'm noticing that, things are not traditional anymore. But so all of the young ladies got pearls. My sister got some pearls that she could say were a gift from her sister and her mom. So I did things like started last year. Where I started decorating my mother's room and her ceiling. So it took me a while to take down the last set of things, but I took all those pink things down, and there are 3 little girls that are kind of growing up on the block, and I gave it to their moms and put in their room. They could hang it from the ceiling on the wall. Just gave them away. But that was nice because my mother would look up at the ceiling all the time, and I'd be like, well, what is up there? And I'd be like, if it's a light, don't go into the light. So I had these things I was changing it seasonally and had already bought the stuff to transition from spring to summer. So this it's in a bag. She just looked about a month shy of her 84th birthday. Just everybody, I don't think everybody can do it. I don't think everybody should do it. If you cannot do it easily, then you consider what that means. I know I was very selfish. I did not want to go to the nursing home. I did not want to be in charge of a bunch of other adults and tell them what to do and how they're not going to like that. I also had somebody who could not speak in any way, shape, or form for themselves.
But you knew them, so you...
Yeah. And I know when my mother was doing some things in the nursing home, she was hollering, she had just had this stroke, and she was just yelling and yelling and yelling. And when she came home, she was still yelling at night. And I asked the doctor when they came, can she have something, because you know she may not have to sleep at night, but I gotta sleep at night. And you know, and something as small as that made the difference of whether I was able to well care for my child, so that she would sleep through the night, and eventually she got to a certain point. Yeah, but you know what? So much of these common sense things are not happening. So I would say one thing everybody should take out of this room: your health is your responsibility. Now you may include other people in that. You know, somebody who you believe has more expertise or has more learned something. But your health is your responsibility. So you should always, you know, they say, well, what you done? A couple weeks ago, I was saying my brain is leaky because this is the symptom, and I looked up and said, oh, that could be a brain. Oh my God, my brain could be leaky. So I had gone to the eye doctor, I had gone to the urgent care, I had done a couple of things, and at this I was spent with going to people. I was like, all right, so I guess, look, I'm doing okay. Because I'm moving fast, and I just needed to know, do I need to slow down? Because my brain is moving. So, but that is, I think, because we are mindful of things that you can do for your own health before you get sick. When you think you're getting sick, we were doing that stuff before. Luther would have me in there putting cayenne in my socks. We were taking oregano off. This is before COVID. So those are just things I think, you know, that I just want for everybody to just be able to just think about those things. And not so much that you have to question what other people are always doing or telling you to do, but you know, it's your body. You know, about how it works.
So my father got Alzheimer's in the early 90s, and I was working. And that whole thing about, the first thing I did is I went to the Alzheimer's chapter, and I took the 3 workshops. They saved my life. Because that's basically what they said, you got to take care of yourself. And you know, it was really difficult. At one time I thought I was going to lose my job, you know, because it was just, I was working overtime, and then he was in a home at Stanford, so running back and forth. And it was exhausting. But there was one thing, and then my father died, and then my boyfriend got Alzheimer's. And so it was just, and I knew something was wrong, you know, and he knew something was wrong during that transition, and he just passed away. But he's, I think, so with my father, I learned something that really helped, which is music. Music is a really big thing. Boy, that totally calmed him down. And then he would sing on, I never heard my father sing on top of his voice. He did, you know? And then the same thing with Richard. He loved the Temptations. And I put the Temptations, and I have it in my phone, and he would just knew all the words. It was just...
those things
are really... but I think, and when Richard got Alzheimer's, I was very... his daughters and I were very close. And what was wonderful for me is that I could help them because I had done it with my father. And we are so close to this day because of that. And you know, I don't know. It's like you can always replace. You can't replace a parent, but you can always replace a boyfriend.
Some people might give you one free.
Like my sister would repeat herself. When I was repeating herself, it's like, oh no. So, and even though I wrote about music in my book, you know, sometimes I write these things and I forget, you know, what I wrote. And so I had my phone and I put some music on because I was cleaning up a room. So I said, let's put some music on. And she just started singing and singing and singing. So she was doing so much singing that she wasn't repeating herself. Like, oh my God, this is so fabulous. And then when we go, you know, I take her out shopping in the car, we're playing music, we're just singing. So it's like, music is great.
And I can tell you this, what you guys said about music. So my grandmother on my father's side had Alzheimer's dementia. She was living up in New York. We brought her from Charleston to stay with my uncle. So my cousin would take her on weekends to give him a break. So I had my studio at Shimoda at the time. So She comes with us to a flea market at the church next to the precinct on that next block over. And we could not get her out of the room, you know, it was downstairs, right? So, and she was strong as an ox. Like, you was not budging that woman if she didn't want to do something.
Oh, she did.
And all of a sudden, one of the church ladies started singing an old hymn, because she said, where's she from? And when she found out she was from the South, she was like, oh, I know she's a church woman. So she started singing an old hymn, and my grandmother chimed in with her, and they clapping and singing and bouncing, and she walked all the way up the stairs. And it was like, oh my God, that's what we had to do. Like, just sing a song and that's the key. So that's why I said the magic of telling the story is so that someone else who's going through it doesn't have to go through the same way, because all of those things are your tools so that you can move through it with the least amount of resistance.